Hey guys, it's Shirley, and back in middle school, my humanities classes would have us sometimes do creative writing projects. And today, I remembered about one of these projects that I did and managed to unearth it from my Google Drive. And it is an emotional roller coaster. It's a story that I wrote for a dystopia project that we had in class where we had to make a story about a dystopian society. So I thought it would be fun if I read to you guys the story that I wrote, also reading it to myself again for the first time in almost 10 years, and draw the characters along the way and make drawings related to the story. Today is story time with Shirley, but the story is pretty cringe, the writing is pretty bad, there isn't a happy ending, and it takes place with an oppressive government, except I didn't know much about governments at the time, so I don't write it very well. It's just an edgy, deep story that I wrote when I was 14. How bad can it possibly be? Alright, now we're cutting to the footage of me blind reacting to the story. Okay, so I figured this would be the most entertaining if I did like a blind read through, so that's what we're gonna do! That way I can feel the pain with you guys. The sun rose as all the mountains cast their shadows over the horizon. Down at the plaza, teenagers walked together on their way to the workshop, looking for inspiration for their next invention if they were to move on to the next stage. Each in their unique self-made attire, from ruffle bell-bottoms to headbands with the beaks of geese attached to look like horns. They all stood out. Out of all these young, fresh minds, there was one girl who hadn't made anything innovative, at least original, yet. She stopped walking, staring into the sunrise. A pair of glasses with one rectangular and one circular lens framed her small round face. Peak character design. Underneath her eyewear, one eye was a pastel pink, the other was an electric bright blue. Almost all of her orange hair was shaved, except for a single area on the side of her head that she kept in a ponytail. Her bright purple lips encased a mouth that looked— why would I phrase it like that? Her bright purple lips encased a mouth that looked somewhat normal, until she spoke when it revealed a large round tongue piercing. Yep, 14-year-old me was like, how can I make someone really unique tongue piercing? This is peak character design. I gave her every single, I understood the assignment with this project, actually. Hey, I have something to ask you. Shh, don't call me that. Her friend walked back to her. Brushing red and white strands out of her face, her hair resembled a peppermint candy. Her long white skirt, cut to look like a paper snowflake, added to the effect. She looked around with her frosty blue eyes to make sure no one was paying attention. You know that name's already taken. Okay, actually the design of this character sounds pretty solid. You know that name's already taken. Seriously? You mean Peyton G. Belengiocassi? The screwdriver artist? Is that why you're so upset? Just call me by my real unique name that was given to me by my parents. That's all I have left of them. At birth, children were separated from their parents so they wouldn't be influenced by previous generations and instead be original and make their mark on the world. If anyone wanted to be like someone else, a repetition of what had been done, a mindless drone, then they would be of no use, only pushing technology backward. Okay, fine. The corners of the girl's purple mouth forming into a grin. Peglacia nobia pasta desk burritos cello penguin blueberry. Aldegrincema? I was being serious. What are these names? I don't know how I intended for these to be pronounced. Here, I'll put them on the screen so you can see what I have to read right now. Aldegrincema and Peglacinobia. No, Peglacinioba. Maybe. That's my best guess. Aldegrincema, I was being serious. Okay, fine. Peglacinioba. Aldegrincema apologized. But can you at least call me Al? I don't get why you want to be called by your real name all the time. Yeah, you don't get to be— oh my god. Sorry, I'm reading ahead. This is— holy moly. I don't get why you want to be called by your real name all the time. Yeah, you don't get to see your parents. I mean, I don't either, but don't you think it's a little time-consuming to— My parents died, she replied in a grave tone. What? But I thought— My parents died, she repeated. They were killed. Both of them. I never got to meet them, but I would see them all the time through the news window. My mother was the owner of a small dog food company. My father was an architect. They both had very risky jobs because they dealt directly with the public, and pursuing even one unoriginal act could cost them their job or even their lives. One day, my father had engineered a building that accidentally leaned ever so slightly. And then... Oh my god, I cannot do this with a straight face. Oh my god. I can do this. This is an emotional scene. One day, my father had engineered a building that leaned ever... One day, my father had engineered a building that accidentally leaned ever so slightly, and then... Tears started to well in her eyes, but she quickly regained her composure and continued. The government... They said it was a duplicate of the Leaning Tower of Pisa and demolished the building. And removed my father, too. The same thing happened to my mother months later. Unable to hold her feelings back anymore, she burst into tears. What is this backstory? Why did I write this? My poor teacher who had to read this with a straight face. I'm sorry. I didn't realize that it went. It's okay. You wouldn't have known, Pei replied, already drying her tears, staring ahead and walking on. Are you sure? It's okay, Pei assured. I've got to move on. We've got the final today. I can't present myself like this. The final. The one project that determined who would be accepted into the next workplace, and those who weren't accepted were to be removed. Wow, I really just leave that ambiguous. Thinking about all the effort she put into her project, that she could finally prove herself to be worth something, Aldegrincema's confident smile suddenly fell, her face turning as white as a sheet. Oh no, she said to herself, and took off running back to her apartment. What was that question you wanted to ask? Pei asked, only to realize she was talking to herself. And there's a little time skip. Racing up the stairs to the sky-high building, Aldegrincema flung open the door to her apartment. In front of the door, a small purple doormat greeted her. Al laughed, thinking to herself, aren't we all doormats to society? The walls were covered in large murals of the old city. She painted them herself. And in the middle of the room was a large blue bed, covered almost entirely in handmade throw pillows that she belly flopped onto, wishing she could stay there forever, safe under the pile of fluff. Sitting on the kitchen countertop was her final, a small device that filtered buffalo dung into silver. I say dung because it's a school project and I can't say poop or other harsher words. It was certainly extraordinary, and it would feel so great to show all the people who were mean to her as a kid that she was worth something, that she was special. While it was an almost revolutionary invention, it still felt like 5 months wasted, for she would much rather base her project off her real passion, painting, which was already taken by many people in the past, like Leonardo da Vinci and Picasso, and was considered one of the things that creates repetitive, mindless drones. Despite the laws against it, Elle still painted the old city, using her walls as canvases, expressing herself rather than being constantly reminded that she had needed to change the world outside of her walls. The old city was her escape from society, her true home. The apartment was the only place where she could be who she really was, Elle. Inside the walls, she didn't have to worry about whether or not she was original enough. She could actually think for herself. In there, she didn't have to be Aldegrincema, the crazy, self-obsessed airhead. She could be Elle, an artist with a dream to paint on something huge, like a bridge or on the side of a building. In her home, she didn't have to worry about being taken away for enjoying something that wasn't completely new. Pulling herself out of bed, Elle remembered why she was lying in her bed. Grabbing the device, she was reminded that if she wanted to live, she had to be someone else. She dashed out of her home. Elle checked her long black armband for her watch. 8:54. If she didn't make it in time, the government would see this as a threat to their way of society. They would see her as a threat to the society. And the government crushes threats as easily as a child could squish a spider inching across the floor. There were only 3 minutes until 9, and the workshop was half a mile away. If I sprint, I can still make it, Elle told herself repeatedly. The average human walking speed, I think, is... Anyway, there were only 3 minutes until 9, and the workshop was half a mile away. If I sprint, I can still make it, Elle told herself repeatedly, trying to comfort herself with what she knew was a lie. And if I don't, at least I'll be found near the campus, so they might forgive me. Pushing through the crowd, she ran at full speed. Faster, faster, and wham! She crashed into an unsuspecting stranger. Apologizing, she hurriedly helped him get back up, when she looked into his eyes and was overcome with surprise. It was like looking into a mirror. Adjusting her glasses, Elle took a second glance. Looking into his large almond eyes, she was reminded much of her own. Unlike hers, his were in a consistent color, a mysterious brown, like the eyes she was born with. As he opened his mouth in shock, she noticed that he also had a piercing on his tongue, a smaller, rectangular one. Are tongue piercings genetic in this? Whoa, they both said at the exact same time. Wait, let me record it twice so I can layer it. Whoa, they both said at the exact same time. Elle had so many questions she felt like asking him, but with only 2.5 minutes left until workshop started, she decided to make it quick, thinking that she could still make it. Hi. She smiled sheepishly. I'm Al. I mean, Aldegrincema is my real name, but you can just call me whatever. He just stared, as though surprised that she could talk. Can I ask you something? I've kind of been waiting for the right person to ask. For some reason, I have a feeling you're that person. Nobody seems interested in my thoughts, but would you be? He shrugged his shoulders. Sure. Oh my god, I really gave bro no speaking lines. Thanks so much. She cleared her throat. I've been thinking about all this propaganda about being original and being yourself, but what do you do with your life when what you thought was your passion was already taken? You can't really be yourself anymore, right? And when everyone is forced to be unique, doesn't that make us all the same? It's kind of funny because the government has been calling people who have been influenced mindless drones. But don't you really become a mindless drone when you give up who you are inside so you can quote-unquote be original and change the world? He opened his mouth to answer when out of nowhere 2 officers came in different bright divisiforms instead of uniforms. Why? He opened his mouth to answer when out of nowhere 2 officers came in different bright divisiforms, somewhat resembling a pair of tropical parrots. Looking down on Al, one of the officers nodded to the other, and they both leg-cuffed her. Wow. Okay, sure, it's edgy. It's dystopia. We don't do handcuffs because we're edgy. Al's face froze, staring right into the long, clear blade of a sword, illuminated by red and blue LED lights. We got that bisexual lightsaber lighting, I guess. If you can't tell, I've liked Star Wars for a long time, so I guess I had to add glow swords to this one. It was held right by her face. Right by her ear, a wide, cylindrical gun was positioned. One of the officers pulled out his two-way radio, calmly saying, "We found her. This young delinquent, guilty of missing her final and attempt to get away." I was running there! I forgot my project. I could have made it! Al stopped herself, feeling the glow of the sword move closer to her neck. In addition to refusing to take responsibility for this action, she has also manipulated this fine young mind into looking and thinking like her, to start an army of mindless drones. The officer looked over to Al. "We'll be bringing her in for interrogation." The boy interrupted the officer. "But sir, she's my—" "What are you waiting for? Get to workshop already!" the officer shouted, spraying his onion breath all over him. Wow. Bro just ate a whole onion before going to work. I'm gonna canonize that, I guess. Reluctantly, he ran off. "As for you, you shall be interrogated." The officer escorted Al to the station, the other still pointing her gun at her ear in case Al tried to escape. And then we have another scene break. Holy moly, there's... Why? What is this writing? I think the reason I mentioned onion breath, my English teacher had a big emphasis on like show, don't tell, and like use all kinds of details for all the senses, so I guess I needed a smell detail in there. Onion breath. Bro ate an onion before going to work. Just crunched into it like an apple. Anyway, we had a scene break. "That's not what happened! I promise! It was all a coincidence! I've never met him in my life!" She struggled to get out of her leg cuffs, which only tightened as she tried to escape. Chuckling to himself, the officer said, "Never met him in your life," he muttered. "Never met him." Then, unleashing a whiff of fish breath into Al's face. Onion breath or fish breath? I gotta decide. Did he like eat a fish in between the scene break as well, like a raw fish? Then, unleashing a whiff of fish breath into Al's face, he yelled, "He's your twin brother! How are you supposed to explain that?" "My brother?" Al stopped struggling. This is a telenovela at this point. "Yeah." The officer paused, exhaling as though exasperated. "The only reason we let you both live was because we thought if we separated the two of you, then you could live original lives. Well, look at how that worked out. We can't just let 2 copies walk around." It was then Al realized her fate, but still mustered enough courage to speak. "What about my brother?" Al squeaked, instantly regretting bringing him up. "Don't worry, we've already taken care of him. But it's actually not your brother that got you arrested," the officer replied calmly. "It's you." "Me?" Al's face froze. "What do you mean?" "Our sources detected that you were illegally copying an action of the past." "Huh? When?" "Don't pretend that you don't know. Your walls." "Oh," Al confessed. "That." The officer left, with Al sitting, confused. Sitting in the dark room with its black checkered floor and ceiling, Al felt like she didn't stand out anymore. Not her outfit, not her personality. Staring at the gray walls, she felt like she was melting inside, as though all her paints were mixing together, until all that was left in her was a dark, muddy puddle of who she thought she was. Why wasn't I good enough? She questioned herself in misery. Suddenly she lost consciousness, glimpsing visions of the old city one last time, as she fell to the floor. The end. It's edgy, so it has a sad ending, because it's a dystopia. Also, if you were wondering why that last paragraph like randomly like went hard in terms of like the writing style out of nowhere, I quite vividly remember one of my friends who was like a really good writer giving me like feedback on this story, and like they kind of came up with this paragraph and I basically just took it. But yeah, this is my I'm 14 and this is deep story that I wrote when I was 14. Oh gosh, this story was kind of a lot. It has some good things in it. I liked Pei's character design. It was solid. It's the one thing I remember from the story because I remember really liking it. And reading back, I'm like, yeah, this will make pretty good art. I will make some solid art. And then, holy moly, reading that character description felt like emotional whiplash, for lack of a better explanation. I was like, oh my gosh, the amount of details. Obviously, there's so much messed up with like the world building in the story. Divisiforms. That's a word. Also, the backstory for Pei's parents dying. The best part is when I wrote this as a middle schooler, I remember writing it being like, I am so edgy. This is so deep. I feel like the character designs that I have, they sound very anime. I really liked anime as a middle schooler. That probably fed into the character designs here. But yeah, holy schmoly. That is my writing. It's almost 10 years old now. I'd like to think my writing has maybe improved since then, but I'll let you guys be the judge of that. I hope you enjoyed the speed paint. I hope you enjoyed this emotional roller coaster of a story. Little kid me wrote it, you know, trying to be edgy, not thinking that I would someday show it to people. But yeah, I hope you maybe enjoyed that, if possible, or you cringed along with me. I hope you liked the art that I did for this video. And if you guys like hearing my cringe, like middle school stories, if you want, I could try to dig up some more old stories I wrote growing up and read them to you guys. I think I'm gonna need to head out and rethink all my life choices. All that aside, thank you for watching this far. This video was kind of silly, very unscripted, just chilling. If you'd like to support the channel, liking helps a lot, and if you want to see more of my videos, feel free to subscribe. I kind of just do a lot of different kinds of videos, usually connecting to digital art in some way, as well as like sometimes with singing in them too. I kind of just make whatever I feel like, so it's a bit of a variety channel, but it's still fun nonetheless, so if you want to hang out on my little corner of the internet, you are more than welcome. But until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll surely see you around. Bye! Aldegrincema! Did I even name the brother? No, I didn't.